Hey kids, it's Uncle Nick, and I wanted to show you some of my old technology junk, things that I work on, that just I sort of tinker with, and I thought maybe you would think it was interesting because a lot of this stuff is probably things that you've never seen before or things you maybe have never even heard of. So I thought I would show it to you and show you how it works and what the stuff is all about. So to start with, I have an old laptop here, and you can see there's a bunch of funny stickers on the top. Never mind those. And you can see there's a bunch of other junk sitting around here too. And maybe you recognize some of these, like over here you got a mouse, obviously. And there's another mouse back here, but there's some things about them you probably don't know, and we'll cover those in a different video. But for the moment, the focus is on this guy right here, this laptop. This is an old IBM laptop, just like you can see, it says right there. And it was built in 1998, which is not the oldest laptop in the world, but it's pretty old for computers. It's pretty darned old. And you can see, there's some stuff plugged in here, but I want to try to give you an idea of just how thick and clunky this thing is. You can see it's pretty darn thick, right? A more modern laptop is not quite as thick as that, and I actually brought a laptop that's not from, today, but it's a more modern one, and you can see, just for comparison's sake, here's that laptop right here. Looks a little more like something you're probably used to seeing. But the real thing, the magic, is if you point it here, and I put this laptop, do you see that? Can you see how much thicker the IBM laptop is? It's thicker just in the bottom half than this modern one, isn't it? And it weighs a bunch too. It's much heavier. Part of that is because of how it was built. This was built in its day for business people to be traveling around with. So it has some special features in it that are boring, and I won't talk about those, but it makes it a little bit heavier. So let's save all the talking and see how this thing works. Now, something you'll notice is when I open this up, when I open it up, I'm going to start it up in a second, and when I do that, you're going to hear it sounds different than you're used to as well, and there are, again, some reasons for that, and they're probably a little boring, but that's okay. But what's funny is you're going to hear it making some clunks and beeps and rattles, and it's going to sound kind of as old as it is. For anybody who's watching this and knows what this means, you can see there's a little sticker here. It says this has a processor that's a Pentium 2. If you know what that means, you know it's old. That's some old stuff. But the cool thing is, this thing can still run much better than you might suspect. So, to start it up, the first funny thing is, can you see a button to push to start this thing? Normally you see, well, that looks like a button right there, doesn't it? Nope, that didn't work. You can see there's some lights here. It's the Model 600. It's an IBM Thinkpad, Model 600. But where's the button? How do you start this thing up? You see a normal keyboard. What about that red thing in the middle? Push that? No. I'll show you what that's for a little bit later. You can see there's some speakers here. That's not a button to start it up. Where it is not a button at all. It's along the side of the thing here, and it's actually an old switch. It's that guy right there. And there's something next to it here that your parents are going to recognize. That's called a modem, and we can talk about that in another video too. So to start this thing up, you put your thumb here, and I'm going to slide the switch forward. Slide it forward. So let's reorient our laptop here so we can see what we're doing, and we'll start the thing up. Are you ready for this? Listen carefully. There we go. That's the first funny thing. I don't know if you could hear it when it was starting up, but it makes this sort of whooshy kind of a sound. Windows XP. Maybe you've heard of that and maybe you haven't. I bet your parents have, and they've used it back in the day too. This is old stuff. And in fact, what's funny is that this laptop is so old that Windows XP was brand new. You had to upgrade to XP from what it came with, which is something called Windows 98, which I will also show you in a different video because I have that too. It plays a little jingly song in a second. Funny names for me and your auntie. But you can guess which one I am. So click my username, and the jingly song comes up in a second after that. And you might notice it's not running as fast as probably the laptop that you use. That's going to be a familiar little tune to a lot of people, and some people haven't heard that tune in a long time. And those people used to hear that tune every time they started up their computer. Every time. Now, if you use a Windows computer today, you probably use a version called Windows 10. And you can see, even in this old version called XP, and you'll even see it in Windows 98, which is even older, as in from 1998, when this laptop was built, remember? You can see that some of the design is still kind of the same, even with this much older laptop compared to a new one. You have a button down here that says Start. Well, in Windows 10 it doesn't say Start anymore, but it still has a Windows logo on it. And you have some quick launch buttons. And then over on the right-hand side of the taskbar, which is at the bottom of the screen, just like in Windows 10, you have some icons and the time. That should look pretty darn familiar to you. So it's kind of amazing, isn't it, that when you design something, whether it's software like this or the laptop itself looks recognizable as a laptop, even though it's a very old computer. You can tell what this is. When someone makes a design and we get used to how it looks or how it works, or the design works really nicely, then we don't change it. There's a saying that says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's kind of what's happening here. The design, it just works. So if I take my mouse and I come down here and I click this, it might even look a little familiar as well. It's also going to look probably very old and clunky to most of you because you've never seen anything like this before. It still refers to the software on your computer not as apps, but as programs, which is what everybody used to call it. And you can see it's got a menu of all these different things that you can open up. And they just keep flying out and flying out like some old web page, huh? Like an old and a kind of a poorly designed web page. They keep flying out and flying out. We got some games on here. There's a classic. There's an old pinball game. Maybe you've seen a pinball game. But this game was pretty advanced in its day. Oh my goodness. When you were a kid and this was new, that sound was so exciting you can't even believe it. Ask your parents and they'll tell you. You use the keyboard, just like with most PC games, to play the game. And that's that. In another video, I'll show you something maybe you've heard of that's kind of a joke right now called Clippy. And Clippy ran on old computers like this. And then you can tell all your friends that you actually know what Clippy is. So, that's enough for the first video. We've got all these different things I can show you and we can talk about in another video, but that's a good introduction. So this, as of today, I'm recording this in 2021. This is a 23-year-old laptop. And look how well it runs. There's still a bunch of things that you can do to have fun, play games, or even get some work done on this. So bye-bye for now. Thanks for watching. And let's check out some more stuff in my other videos.